Hi, my name is Angela Hendricks. This is my Communications 101 speech for Jefferson College. Here is my audience. Athletes sometimes joke about getting your bell rung or feeling a stinger after taking a hit to the head during sports. However, adolescent concussions can have serious consequences. One of the most common ways young athletes get concussions is through sports injuries. A recent review conducted by the American Academy of Pediatricians estimated that 3.8 million recreation and sports-related concussions each year in the United States. Sports-related concussions in young athletes are common. However, they are generally underreported and often go unrecognized. I became interested in this topic because I'm a mother of 3 athletes that have been involved in multiple sports, such as football, soccer, basketball, and baseball. I received hands-on training on this topic through the Brain Injury Association of Missouri in 2017, and more recently experienced firsthand when my youngest son was injured during a football game, resulting in a concussion. Today, I want to inform you about the growing risk and dangers of concussions in children and adolescents participating in youth sports. I want you to understand how a concussion is caused, what symptoms of a concussion are, and most importantly, how you will prevent a concussion. So, let's begin by explaining exactly what a concussion is. A concussion is a mild form of a traumatic brain injury caused by a bump, blow, or jolt to the head. A doctor will describe these injuries as mild because concussions are usually not life-threatening. However, their effects can be serious. Young athletes' brains are still developing, putting them at a higher risk for the effects of a concussion. The way in which the injury happens may be very important in predicting how serious the injury will be. Most leading causes of concussions seen in emergency departments are falls, motor vehicle-related injury, unintentionally being struck by or against an obstacle, assaults, and playing sports. Most related concussions are caused by player-to-player contact. According to a study completed by the CDC, over 2/3 or 70% of concussions among athletes result from contact with another athlete. This is followed by 17% player-to-surface contact, such as hitting the ground or another obstacle. Concussions occur in all sports, with the highest risk in aggressive high-contact sports, such as football, hockey, soccer, baseball, and basketball. The National Safety Council reported that 10% of all contact sports athletes sustain a concussion yearly. Don't think it's just football players or boys who bang their heads, though. Girls actually suffer a higher percentage of concussions according to the study of Safe Kids Worldwide. Brain injuries in football occur at a rate of 1 in every 5 games, while 5% of soccer players sustain brain injuries. The head is involved in more baseball injuries than any other body part, with almost half of those injuries involving the head, face, mouth, or eyes. An athlete who sustains a concussion is 4 to 6 times more likely to obtain a second concussion. Cheerleading has changed drastically in the last 20 years, with more difficult stunts being performed. According to a 2010 cheerleading data report from the Consumer Product Safety Commission, head and neck injuries accounted for 19.3% of total cheerleading injuries. And of this data, 1,579 head injuries resulted in concussions. So now that we understand what a concussion is and some of the ways our athletes can get a concussion, let's look into the symptoms of a concussion. Symptoms of a concussion usually fall into 4 categories: cognitive, physical, emotional, and sleep. Cognitive symptoms may include things like can't follow conversations, trouble with attention, concentration, difficulty learning new information, slowed reaction times, and can't think clearly, pretty much just in a fog. Physical symptoms include headache, amnesia, nausea, dizziness, sensitivity to light and sound, and fatigue. Emotional symptoms include feelings like feeling sad, easily irritated, anxious, more emotional than others, changes in personality, and more impulsive. And some sleep symptoms include sleeping more or having trouble falling asleep, not sleeping soundly, a disturbed sleep cycle, and not feeling rested after sleep. Most people with a concussion recover quickly and fully, but for others, symptoms can last for days, weeks, or longer. Recovery may be slower among older adults, young children, and teens. Those who have had a concussion in the past are at a higher risk of having a concussion more frequently and may find that the recovery period is longer in each concussion. It is recommended that the individual contact a physician or go to the emergency room if they sustain a bump, blow, or jolt to the head and have the following symptoms: a headache that gets worse and does not go away, weakness, numbness, or decreased coordination, repeated vomiting or nausea, slurred speech, drowsiness, or cannot be awakened. One pupil seems to be larger than the other, convulsions or seizures, does not recognize people or places, gets increasingly confused, restless, or agitated, unusual behavior, or loss of consciousness. Now that we know what the symptoms to look for in a concussion injury, let's discuss how you can treat a concussion. During an interview with Dr. Halstead of Washington University, he explained there is a problem called second impact syndrome that affects children but not seen in older athletes. If a child returns to competition too soon and suffers another head injury, they can develop dramatic swelling in the brain and even die from the second injury. To avoid these consequences, Dr. Halstead recommends athletes should not return to physical activity of any kind until they are symptom-free. In some cases, in addition to resting from physical activity, young athletes may need what he calls brain rest, which temporarily includes refraining from schoolwork, video games, television, and reading. Now, let's learn some measures to prevent concussions in youth sports. Preventative strategies include education, modification of sports rules, use of equipment such as helmets, face masks, and mouth guards, and special neck muscle training. To truly improve injury prevention and reduce concussions, we need to accomplish several things. We need to promote age-appropriate related rules, techniques and standards of play, improve medical care at sporting events, improve awareness of concussions among the public and education on concussions among coaches, officials, and athletes, change the injury culture in sports, really encourage athletes to report their injuries. So today, we discussed the risks and dangers associated with concussion injuries in youth sports. We learned what a concussion is and how to recognize the symptoms of a concussion. We discussed proper medical treatment, and lastly, we addressed several ways to help prevent concussion injuries in high-impact sports. So I hope after today, the next time you are considering a new sport, you might want to consider something a little less non-contact, perhaps tennis or golf. Thank you.